Hello. Today we're going to continue talking about noun clauses, but today we're going to talk about the second type of noun clause, which is clauses that begin with a WH question word. Now we call these WH question words because a lot of questions start with WH, but I wonder if you can think of one that doesn't start with a WH. So some question words, let's review. These could be things like what, or where, when, why. Can you think of one without a WH? Maybe how, right? So each of these words, these WH question words, could begin the noun clause here. For example, you could say, I don't know when the homework is due, or I don't know where my class is. So last time we talked about when that begins a noun clause, but here we're talking about when a WH question word begins a noun clause. Notice that the subject and the verb order is the same. It's always followed by WH question plus a subject plus a verb. Now, this can be kind of confusing for students, especially when you're working with a WH question word, you often want to ask a question. But even though the noun clause will begin with a question word, don't use question word order. You have to use regular word order, meaning subject first and verb second. So we could say, he told me what I should say, or he told me where I should say it. Notice we don't say, where should I, which is a normal question word, right? He told me when I should say it, why I should say it, or how I should say it. Again, WH question word plus a subject plus a verb. This is probably the number one most confusing part for students, especially with the question words in noun clauses. Here's another thing to be careful about. The helper verb, or sometimes we call this the auxiliary verb. I'm going to give you some sentences, and I'd like you to notice what happens to the auxiliary or helper verb when we go from a direct question to a noun clause. So here's the original question, what did the teacher say? And when we change it to a noun clause, it's something like, I have no clue what the teacher said. So the helper or auxiliary verb here is did, right? It's not the main verb, but the helper verb. Notice what happens when we change from the original question to the noun clause. What do you notice? You can pause the video while you think about it. I'm going to give you the answer right now. Well, the helper verb goes away, right? In an original question, we must have a helper verb if the main verb is not be. But in a noun clause, we do not use the helper verb, right? So it's just going to say, I have no idea what the teacher said. Now notice that the main verb here changes from verb base to past simple. Why does that change to past simple? Well, that's because the helper verb that we took away, its verb tense needs to be taken so that we understand that this happened in the past tense. The teacher said something in the past. So be very careful with changing a direct question to a noun clause statement. Okay, so I have a little quiz for you here. Let's call this a stop and practice, not a real quiz. I'm going to give you some noun clauses, and I'd like you to say if they're correct or if they're incorrect, and why. If they're incorrect, you can try fixing them on your own, okay? So again, please pause the video while you work on these. I'm going to give you the answers in just a moment. Okay, so here are the answers. Number one is actually correct. Can you tell me where the bookstore is? Notice we have a WH question, then we have the subject, and then we have the verb, right? It goes subject, verb, order. That's perfect. Number two is incorrect. This is because we need to switch these two. They have a word order problem. I'm not sure what the answer is. The answer is the subject, so it needs to go before the verb. Number three, does anyone know how dolphins communicate with each other? Here we have a subject-verb agreement problem. Here is the WH question word. Dolphins is the subject and it's plural, so we need a plural verb as well. Number 4, it's important to ask when you do not understand something, okay? So here we need to switch, again, the subject needs to come first. Now, many students are going to ask, well, do is a helper verb. Why do we need the helper verb? The last slide, we said we don't need it. But because this is a negative, in a negative sentence, you always need that helper verb. So in this case, we're going to keep it. Okay, so I hope that helped a little bit kind of understand these a little bit better and some of the common mistakes that students make. Let's do a little bit of practice, okay? Here, I'm going to give you some sentences, and just like we did in the last video, I'd like you to finish the sentences with a noun clause, okay? Don't forget to use regular word order, meaning a subject and a verb. Don't use question word order. Okay, again, you can pause the video while you do this. I'm going to give you some example answers right now. Okay, so number 1 could be something like, my mom wanted to know when I wanted to celebrate my birthday, right? Again, after when, we have subject I and verb wanted. Number 2, my teacher wanted to know why I didn't do my homework. That's a common one, right? My teacher wanted to know why I didn't do my homework. Number 3, do you know where? Do you know where I can fix my cell phone screen, right? Maybe my screen is cracked. Do you know where I can fix my cell phone screen? And number 4, can you tell me how? Usually we say how to, but because this is a noun clause, I want to use how and a subject. Let's see, I could say, can you tell me how caterpillars turn into butterflies? Can you tell me that process? Can you tell me how caterpillars turn into butterflies? Okay, so once again, your answers will probably be very different from mine, and that's fine. Just make sure that after each of these words in green, that you have a subject and a verb. So I hope that helps. We only have one more type of noun clause to talk about next, so please watch the next video.